There is a kind of quiet that settles over you after years of being misunderstood. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the stillness of a person who has learned to carry their own heart carefully, because so many others handled it without care. And if you are watching this today, I wonder if you know that quiet well. I wonder if you have spent long seasons of your life explaining yourself to people who never really wanted to understand. I wonder if you have offered the truest parts of who you are to someone, only to watch them turn away because what you gave them was more than they knew how to receive. That kind of rejection does something to a person. It does not always leave visible wounds, but it changes the way you walk into rooms, the way you speak about yourself, the way you hold back the best of what you carry, because you have learned that not everyone deserves to see it. To start here, in this honest place, because I believe there is someone watching who needs to hear that God sees all of it. He sees the way you have protected yourself. He sees the way you have questioned whether you are too much for people, or perhaps not enough. He sees the way you have wondered if real love, the kind that does not require you to shrink, or perform, or pretend, is something that other people experience, but never you. And what I want to tell you, gently and without exaggeration, is that something is shifting. Not because the stars have aligned or because some mystical force is rearranging your life, but because you have done the quiet, unglamorous work of becoming. You have grown in ways no one applauded. You have healed in places no one knew were broken. And now, perhaps without even realizing it, you have stepped into a version of yourself that can finally be recognized by the right person. There is a passage in the book of Ecclesiastes that speaks to the mystery of God's timing, how He has made everything beautiful in its time, and how He has also set eternity in the human heart, so that we cannot fully understand what He is doing from beginning to end. I have sat with that verse many times, not because it offers easy answers, but because it acknowledges the tension we all live in. We long for things we cannot force. We wait for outcomes we cannot control. And in the waiting, we are asked to trust a God who works in seasons we do not always understand. If you have been waiting for someone to truly see you, not just glance at your surface, but actually recognize the depth of who you are, I want you to consider that this waiting has not been wasted time. It has been preparation. It has been refinement. It has been the slow, sacred process of becoming someone worth seeing, not because you were ever worthless, but because the version of you that is emerging now has a clarity and a wholeness that could not have existed before the journey. Think about the people who passed through your life and did not stay. I know it is painful to revisit, but stay with me for a moment. Some of them left because they could not handle your honesty. Some left because your faith made them uncomfortable. Some left because you asked for more than they were willing to give. And rather than rise to meet you, they chose to walk away. And I know there were nights when you blamed yourself. Nights when you wondered if you had been too open, too trusting, too hopeful. But I want to offer you another way of seeing it. What if their departure was not a rejection of your worth, but a protection of your future? What if God, in His quiet mercy, allowed certain people to leave so that the right person could arrive in a space that was finally clear? There is a kind of divine mathematics at work in our lives that we rarely appreciate until we look back. Doors close, and we grieve. Relationships end, and we question everything. But years later, we often see that those closings made room for openings we could not have imagined. I am not asking you to pretend the pain did not matter. It did. I am asking you to hold that pain alongside the possibility that something good is coming, not as a denial of your suffering, but as a declaration of your hope. The Apostle Paul wrote about a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that guards the heart and mind of those who bring their worries to God. That peace is not the absence of difficulty, presence of trust in the middle of difficulty. And I believe that peace is available to you today, not because your circumstances are perfect, but because your Father is faithful. Let me speak now about what it means to be truly seen. There is a difference between being looked at and being seen. You know this because you have experienced both. Being looked at is surface level. It is someone noticing your appearance, your accomplishments, your social presentation. Being seen is something else entirely. It is when someone looks past all of that and recognizes the person you are when no one is watching. It is when someone understands your silences as much as your words. It is when someone can sit with you in your unpolished moments and still choose to stay. That kind of seeing is rare, and it requires two things: a person who is willing to look deeply and a person who is willing to be known. For a long time, you may not have been ready to be known. Not because you were hiding, but because you were still discovering who you were beneath the roles you played and the masks you wore. But something has changed. Maybe it happened slowly, through prayer, through failure, through the steady accumulation of small choices to show up as yourself. Or maybe it happened suddenly, in a moment of clarity, when you realized that pretending was more exhausting than being honest. Either way, you have arrived at a place where you can be seen without fearing that what someone finds will drive them away. And that is no small thing. That is the fruit of years of inner work, even if you did not call it that at the time. Now I want to be careful here because I know how easy it is to twist messages like this into promises that God never made. I am not telling you that a perfect relationship is arriving tomorrow. I am not suggesting that all your loneliness will disappear by the end of the week. What I am saying is that there is a readiness in you now that was not there before. And when readiness meets opportunity, something beautiful can emerge. But even if the timing is not what you hope for, even if the waiting continues a little longer, your readiness is still a gift. It means you are no longer settling for less than you deserve. It means you are no longer trying to earn love by becoming someone you are not. It means you have learned to stand in your own worth, rooted in the truth that you are loved by God before you are loved by anyone else. There is a story in the book of Genesis about Jacob, who worked 7 years to marry Rachel, and the scripture says those years seemed like only a few days because of his love for her. I have always been struck by that detail. Not because it romanticizes waiting, but because it reveals something about the nature of love that is rooted in certainty. When you know what you are waiting for, when you are clear about what you will and will not accept, the waiting takes on a different quality. It is no longer desperate. It is patient. It is anchored. And I wonder if that is where you are right now. Not frantically searching, but quietly anchored in the knowledge that what is meant for you will find you. If you have been enjoying this reflection, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Angels Decode channel, not as an obligation, but as a way to continue receiving messages of encouragement as you walk through this season. There is something powerful about choosing to surround yourself with voices that speak life over you, and I hope this channel can be one of those voices. Now, let me return to this idea of being seen, because there is another layer to it that I think matters deeply. When someone finally sees you for who you truly are, it can bring up unexpected emotions. You might feel relief, yes, but you might also feel fear. Because being seen means being known. And being known means there is nowhere left to hide. For some of us, hiding has been a survival strategy. We learned early that showing our true selves was dangerous. We learned that vulnerability led to pain. And so we built walls, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. But those walls that once protected you can also imprison you if you hold on to them too long. And part of the work of this season is learning to lower them, slowly, carefully, with discernment, but also with courage. The right person will not punish you for your walls. They will be patient as you learn to trust again. They will not force their way in, but they will not walk away either. They will stand at the door of your heart with kindness, waiting for you to open it when you are ready. That is the kind of love worth waiting for. Not someone who demands access, but someone who earns it through consistency and care. I think about the way Jesus interacted with people throughout his ministry. He never forced himself on anyone. He invited. He asked questions. He waited for responses. Even in his power, he honored the freedom of the human heart. And the relationships that are most aligned with his character will reflect that same gentleness. If someone is rushing you, pressuring you, or making you feel like you have to prove your worth, that is not the love God has for you. God's love is patient and kind. It does not demand its own way. And any human love that is meant to bless your life will carry that same spirit. So if you have been questioning whether the connection in front of you is the right one, let that be your guide. Does this person treat your heart with care? Do they honor your pace? Do they see your wholeness, not just your potential usefulness to them? These are the questions that matter more than chemistry, more than timing, more than any external sign. Because real love is not just about feeling seen. It is about being treated with the dignity that seeing should produce. Let me shift now to something that does not get talked about enough in conversations like this. The grief that comes with growth. Change. When you evolve, when you step into a truer version of yourself, there is often a loss that accompanies it. You may lose relationships that cannot survive your transformation. You may lose a version of yourself that you had grown comfortable with, even if it was not your best self. You may lose the certainty of knowing exactly who you are, because growth often means stepping into unfamiliar territory. And that grief is valid. It is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are doing something real. The Bible speaks of dying to self, of putting off the old and putting on the new, but those metaphors can feel abstract until you actually live them. Until you actually feel the ache of releasing who you used to be so that you can become who you are meant to be. If you are in that ache right now, I want you to know that it is not failure. It is not punishment. It is the growing pains of a soul in transformation. And on the other side of this discomfort is a version of you who can receive what the old version never could. So let yourself grieve. Let yourself feel the weight of the letting go. But do not let the grief convince you to turn back. You are not going backward. You are being prepared for something you cannot yet see. I want to speak now to those of you who have been waiting in what feels like hiddenness. You have not been visible in the way you hoped. Your gifts have not been recognized. Your heart has not been cherished. And there have been moments when you wondered if you were invisible, if God had somehow overlooked you in the distribution of good things. I understand that feeling more than you know. But I want to offer you a reframe. Is not the same as abandonment. Sometimes God hides us not to punish us, but to protect us. He hides us until we are ready. He hides us until the environment is ready. He hides us so that when we are revealed, it is at the right moment for the right purpose. Think of David, anointed as king but spending years in the wilderness, fleeing from Saul, living in caves, wondering if the promise would ever come to pass. Those years were not a mistake. They were the crucible that shaped him into the kind of king he would become. And your hidden years, the ones that felt purposeless, are shaping you too. You are developing patience you did not have before. You are learning resilience that will carry you through future challenges. You are being refined in the quiet so that you can shine in the open. And the person who is meant to see you, they will not be distracted by the flash and noise that attracts lesser attention. They will have the eyes to see what has been cultivated in the hidden place. That is the beauty of divine connection. It is not based on performance or visibility. It is based on alignment, a meeting of two souls who have both done the inner work to become people capable of real love. So do not despise your hiddenness. Do not resent the seasons when it seemed like nothing was happening. Something was always happening. You just could not see it yet. There is a verse in Isaiah that I return to often, where God says, "I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name." I love that verse because it acknowledges that some of God's best gifts are hidden, obvious. They are not announced with trumpets. They are discovered by those who have learned to seek Him in the secret places. And the love that is coming to you, the connection that will finally see you for who you truly are, may arrive in a hidden way too. It may not look like what you expected. It may not come through the channels you anticipated. But it will carry the fingerprints of a God who knows you by name. Let me speak now to something practical, because faith is not meant to be disconnected from everyday life. As you wait, as you hope, as you prepare for the kind of love that honors who you are, there are things you can do that are not passive. You can continue to heal. You can address the patterns that have led you into unhealthy connections in the past. You can build a life that is full and meaningful on its own, so that when love arrives, you are ready. Arrives, it is an addition to your wholeness, not a solution to your emptiness. This is important because the best relationships are not between two incomplete people looking to be completed. They are between two whole people who choose to share their wholeness with each other. And if you are still in the process of becoming whole, that is okay. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. But keep doing the work. Keep showing up for your own healing. Keep choosing health over convenience. Because the person who is meant for you is doing the same thing. They are preparing too. They are growing too. And when you finally meet, you will both be grateful for the work you did while you were apart. I also want to encourage you to pay attention to the small confirmations along the way. He speaks in whispers, not shouts. He leaves breadcrumbs of encouragement for those who have eyes to see them. A verse that seems to leap off the page at just the right moment. A conversation with a friend that echoes something you have been praying about. A quiet sense of peace that settles over you when you bring your hopes to Him in prayer. These are not coincidences. They are reminders that you are not alone, that you are being guided, that your story is still being written by an author who knows the ending. If this message is resonating with you, I want to invite you to leave a comment below with a word that describes what you are feeling right now. It could be hope, or peace, or healing, or simply waiting. There is something powerful about naming where you are, and there is community in knowing that others are in similar seasons. To a close, I want to return to the central truth that has carried me through my own seasons of waiting and wondering. God is faithful. Not faithful in the way we sometimes wish, with immediate answers and obvious interventions, but faithful in a deeper way, with presence that does not waver, with love that does not run out, with a plan that is unfolding even when we cannot trace its lines. And His faithfulness is not dependent on your performance. It is not something you have to earn. It is simply who He is. So if you are tired tonight, if the waiting has worn you down, if you are wondering how much longer you can hold on to hope, I want to offer you permission to rest in His faithfulness rather than exhausting yourself with effort. You do not have to make everything happen. You do not have to force open doors that are not ready to open. The need to control and trust that what is meant for you will not pass you by. The Psalms are full of cries from people who felt forgotten, who wondered where God was in their suffering, who begged for relief that seemed slow in coming. And yet, again and again, those same Psalms turned toward praise. Not because the circumstances changed, but because the writers remembered who God was in the midst of them. That is the invitation for you today, to remember who God is, not as a theological exercise, but as a living reality that shapes how you face each day. He is the God who sees you. He is the God who knows your name. He is the God who has counted every hair on your head and caught every tear in a bottle. And He is the God who has promised that those who wait on Him will renew their strength. So wait with courage, expectation. Wait with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are loved, regardless of their relationship status, regardless of how others have treated them, regardless of how long the waiting has lasted. Because you are loved, not for what you do, but for who you are. Not for what you produce, but for the fact that you exist. And the person who is meant to truly see you will love you that same way. They will not ask you to earn their affection. They will not withdraw when you are struggling. They will love you in your strength and in your weakness, in your clarity and in your confusion. That love is possible. That love exists. And that love is moving toward you, even if you cannot see it yet. So as we close, I want to pray over you, not in a formal way, but in the way a friend prays for another friend. Have peace in the waiting. May you have strength for the journey. May you have eyes to see the good that is already in your life, and faith to believe for the good that is still coming. May you know, deep in your bones, that you are worthy of love, real love, not because of anything you have done, but because you are a child of God. And may this season, whatever it holds, be one of growth, of healing, of quiet preparation for the beautiful things that are ahead. Thank you for being here, for listening, for trusting me with this time. If this message blessed you, consider sharing it with someone else who might need to hear it. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Angels Decode channel, know that you are always welcome here, always valued here, always seen here. Until next time, walk in peace, walk in faith, and remember that the God who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it, in His time, in His way, for your good and for His glory. The person you have been praying about, the one you have hoped would finally see you, hold that hope loosely, but firmly. Loosely enough that you do not become desperate, but firmly enough that you do not give up. Because hope is not naivety. It is the courageous choice to believe that the future holds something better than the past. And your future, beloved, is in good hands. Not because I say so, but because the one who holds it has never failed anyone who trusted Him. So trust Him today. Trust Him tomorrow. Trust Him in the waiting and in the fulfillment. And let that trust be the ground on which you stand as you walk into whatever comes next. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. Change. End.